Welcome to Cheating Tales and Drama. Before we dive into today's story, we have a humble request. Please consider subscribing to this new channel. Help us hit our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Your support will motivate us to keep bringing you more exclusive original cheating wife stories. And now, let's get started with today's story. I used to think I knew every sound this house made. The faint hum of the refrigerator at 3 a.m., the old pipes knocking in the walls when someone flushed upstairs, the way the front porch creaked under the mailman's weight every morning. But about 6 months ago, something new crept in. A sound I couldn't place. Software uneven. Almost human. It started small. A faint shuffle overhead when I was in the kitchen late at night. Sometimes just a single creak in the ceiling when the house was supposed to be still. I told myself it was just the wood settling. This place is almost 50 years old. But something in the rhythm felt wrong. It wasn't the random pop of old lumber. It was footsteps, careful ones. At the same time, Celia started changing. Nothing big at first, just little things you only notice when you've been married for over a decade. The way she'd keep her phone face down on the counter. How she'd startled just slightly when I walked into the room. The late nights at work that turned into weekend planning sessions and girls' nights I wasn't invited to. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. We'd built a life together. Mortgage, retirement accounts, the shared joke about how she can never fold a fitted sheet right. You don't just throw that away over a few bad vibes. But the sounds upstairs didn't stop. One night, around 2 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. On my way back, I froze at the top of the stairs. There it was again. Faint movement above the master bedroom. Not the scurry of mice. Not the clunk of a loose rafter. The slow, deliberate press of weight on wood. One step, pause, another step. My skin prickled. I went to the attic door in the hallway, pulled down the folding ladder and poked my head up with a flashlight. The beams swept across the insulation, the dusty beams, the storage boxes we hadn't touched since the move. Nothing. Empty. But the air smelled different up there. Stale, like someone had been breathing in it for too long. And one of the boxes had been shifted slightly out of place. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself maybe Celia had been digging for something while I was at work. I told myself anything that would let me go back to sleep. A week later, I came home early from work. Celia was in the kitchen, quickly shoving a grocery bag into the pantry. I caught a glimpse of what was inside. Bottled water, protein bars, a small jar of peanut butter. She slammed the door shut before I could say anything. "Thought you were working late," she said too quickly. I was. Meeting ended early. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm making pasta tonight. Sound good?" I nodded, but the question wasn't about dinner anymore. It was about why my wife was stockpiling non-perishable food in a house where the pantry already had enough supplies to outlast a snowstorm. That night, I lay in bed pretending to sleep while she scrolled through her phone beside me. Her screen's glow reflected off the ceiling until nearly 1 a.m. When she finally set it down, she didn't move closer to me like she used to. She just rolled to her side and faced away. The next afternoon, I left work early again. I parked 2 blocks away from the house and walked back on foot, quiet as I could. Through the kitchen window, I saw her climbing down the hallway ladder from the attic, holding another grocery bag. This one looked heavier. She froze when she saw me in the doorway. "Oh," she said, catching her breath. I was just getting the Christmas lights down." "It's August," I said. Her laugh was thin. "Yeah, I know. Just thought I'd organize early this year." I didn't press. Not yet. But that night the sounds came again, and this time I didn't go back to sleep. The plan was simple. Act normal. At least that's what I told myself. If I burst in too soon, I might just scare off whatever, or whoever, was up there. I needed to be sure. And more importantly, I needed to be smart. The next 2 days, I did nothing. I went to work. I came home. I ate the dinners Celia made and laughed at the same tired jokes we'd been telling for years. I kissed her cheek when she left for early meetings and pretended I wasn't watching the way she clutched her phone like a lifeline. But at night, I listened. The noises were always the same. Slow steps, a faint thump, the sound of weight shifting on wood. Sometimes I thought I could hear something softer, the rustle of a plastic wrapper, the quiet scrape of a spoon against a jar, like someone eating. By Thursday night, I couldn't take it anymore. Celia had claimed she was staying at her sister's place for a girls' wine night. She'd left at 6 p.m., wearing a dress I'd never seen before and perfume that lingered in the air long after the front door shut. I waited an hour, then another. I wanted to be sure she was nowhere near the house before I checked. The attic ladder creaked as I pulled it down. The sound seemed deafening in the silence of the house. I grabbed my flashlight, steadied my breathing, and climbed. Halfway up, I heard it. A sudden shift in the insulation, like someone trying to move quietly but too late to mask the sound. I raised the beam. At first, I thought I was looking at a pile of old blankets in the corner. Then the blankets moved. A face emerged from the shadows. Pale, unshaven, eyes wide with the kind of panic you only see in people who know they've been caught. It took me a moment to recognize him. I'd seen his picture once, years ago, in one of Celia's old college albums. Back then, he was younger, cleaner, someone she'd described as just a friend from freshman year. Now he was hunched in my attic, surrounded by half-empty water bottles, food wrappers, and a small sleeping bag. He smelled like sweat and dust and stale air. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he said, She told me you wouldn't be home tonight." My grip tightened on the flashlight. "Celia told you that?" He nodded. She said you work late a lot, that you wouldn't care if I stayed for a while, just until I got back on my feet." I didn't answer. I just took in the details. The protein bars from our pantry, the jar of peanut butter I'd seen Celia buy, the small pile of cash tucked into the corner under a blanket. "How long?" I asked. His eyes darted away. "Couple weeks, maybe more." "Couple weeks, maybe more." My stomach turned. I climbed the rest of the way up, slow and deliberate. Not because I was afraid, because I didn't want him to see how badly my hands were shaking. "Do you know whose house this is?" I asked quietly. He swallowed hard. "Yours." "That's right," I said. "Mine." For a long second, we just stared at each other. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. And under all that, I could hear the truth settling into place like a puzzle piece clicking in. Celia hadn't just been cheating. She'd been keeping him here, feeding him, hiding him. In our home. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just stepped back toward the ladder and said, "Don't move." Then I pulled the hatch shut behind me. Standing in the hallway, I felt strangely calm. It was like the worst had already happened, and all that was left was deciding what I was going to do about it. And I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to do anything tonight. Tonight, I was going to let him sit up there in the dark, wondering what I might do next. Because the truth was, I'd already started planning. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of rage, though it was there like a slow burn in my chest, but because my mind was working, clicking through possibilities. What could I do that would hurt more than shouting? More than throwing him out? More than confronting Celia and watching her scramble for lies? The attic was quiet above me now. No footsteps, no wrappers crinkling. Just silence. I imagined him lying in that sleeping bag, staring into the dark, wondering if I'd call the cops, wondering if I'd wait until Celia got home and blow everything up. I wanted him uncomfortable. I wanted him scared. By sunrise, I had a plan. Step 1 was patience. I acted completely normal with Celia the next day. When she came home mid-morning saying her girls' night had run late, I kissed her cheek and poured her coffee like nothing was wrong. She smiled, but her eyes flicked toward the attic hallway for just a second. Quick enough that she thought I wouldn't notice. I noticed. I worked from home that day, which forced her to stay downstairs with me instead of sneaking up there. Every time she left the room, I made sure to follow a minute later, finding her just grabbing something from the laundry or looking for a spice in the pantry. She was restless, jumpy. It was almost fun, watching her mask slip little by little. Step 2 was control. That night, after she went to bed, I quietly locked the attic hatch from the outside with a small padlock I'd bought earlier in the day. It wasn't much, just enough to keep him from coming down unless I let him. I didn't say a word to him. I didn't even knock. The next morning, I made pancakes for Celia. She seemed relieved, maybe thinking whatever tension had been there before had passed. But when she went to leave for errands, I told her I'd come with her. We spent the day together. Grocery store, hardware store, lunch at a little diner she liked. Every minute we were gone was a minute he was stuck up there, without a bathroom, without fresh water, without food. When we got home, I made sure she stayed downstairs again. She tried twice to slip away, and both times I needed her for something. Moving a box, checking a recipe, choosing a movie. I saw the frustration tighten her jaw. I pretended not to. By the third day, I knew he was struggling. When Celia left for a client meeting, I climbed halfway up the ladder and just listened. The air was heavier now, stale and sour. Somewhere in the dark, I heard a faint cough. I didn't speak. I just rattled the hatch a little and left. That night, I gave Celia a long kiss before she went upstairs to shower. Then I walked out to the garage, pulled the circuit breaker for the upstairs outlets, and killed the attic's tiny fan she'd probably snuck up there for him. Let the heat build. Let the air go still. By the end of the week, her stress was showing. She'd started staying up late, pretending to scroll her phone but glancing toward the ceiling every few minutes. Her meetings got shorter. She'd make excuses to go grab something from storage and get irritated when I joined her. On Saturday morning, I made my move. We were in the kitchen when I said casually, "Hey, I think there's something weird in the attic. Want to check it with me?" Her hand froze on the coffee pot. Weird?" "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone light. "Just noises. Might be a raccoon or something." Her smile was brittle. I don't think so. Probably nothing." "Come on," I said, already walking toward the hallway. "Let's look." I pulled down the ladder. She stayed rooted to the spot, coffee cup trembling just slightly in her hand. I climbed up, unlocked the padlock, and swung the hatch open. Her lover was sitting there, back against a beam, eyes hollow, lips cracked from dehydration. The smell hit first. Sweat, stale air, and something else. Something human and desperate. Celia gasped behind me. "Oh my God," I didn't let her finish. "Celia," I said, still looking at him. "Want to explain why there's a man living in my attic?" She stammered something about helping a friend, but I cut her off with a raised hand. "Number save it, I already know." And that's when I started laying out the terms. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't drag him out by the collar and toss him into the street, though God knows every nerve in my body wanted to. That would have been easy. Instant. But I wanted something that would stick. Something they'd remember every time they closed their eyes. I stepped fully into the attic, my shoes crunching lightly on the insulation. He flinched when I came close, but I only crouched in front of him, keeping my voice low and steady. "You've been here a while," I said. He glanced at Celia, like maybe she'd jump in to protect him. She didn't. She was frozen at the base of the ladder, white-knuckled grip on the railing, eyes darting between us. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to leave, today, right now. but you're not walking away without me knowing where you're going." He started to speak, maybe to argue, maybe to beg. But I pulled out my phone and hit record before he could. "You're going to tell me everything," I said. "How long you've been here, how you got in, what she promised you, every detail, and if you leave anything out, I'll know." He swallowed, eyes flicking toward Celia again. "Do it," she whispered, voice shaking. And he did. For 15 minutes, he talked about how they'd reconnected months ago on social media, how she'd told him I was cold, controlling, never home, how she'd offered him the attic just for a few days until he found work, which somehow became weeks, how she'd been sneaking him food, money, even letting him shower when I was away. Every word was like a slow blade turning in my chest, but I kept my face still. When he finished, I saved the recording and slipped the phone back into my pocket. "Now," I said, "you're going to gather your things, and you're going to walk out of this house in front of the neighbors." His head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me." I wasn't raising my voice, but the edge was there now, sharp enough to cut. "You're going to walk out the front door with your little sleeping bag and your trash, and every person on this street is going to see you." Celia stepped forward. "No, please." I turned to her, calm as ever. "You hide a man in my attic for weeks and you're worried about embarrassment?" She went silent. I made him go down the ladder first, then followed, keeping my phone up as if I was filming. Because I was. I didn't stop recording until we were outside. It was a Saturday afternoon. Plenty of neighbors were out, mowing lawns, washing cars, walking dogs. Every head turned when they saw us emerge. "Afternoon?" I called casually to Mrs. Green across the street, who had paused mid-hose to stare. "Just evicting a squatter we found upstairs." Her eyes went wide. Word spread faster than I could have hoped. By the time we reached the curb, at least a dozen people were watching. Some pretended they weren't, but you could feel it. The ripple of judgment, curiosity, gossip already taking shape. I stopped just short of the sidewalk. "Keep walking," I told him. He looked at Celia one last time, but she couldn't even meet his eyes. Then he trudged away, a broken shadow of the man who'd been smugly hiding over my head a week ago. That left Celia. We went back inside without a word. She tried to start explaining the moment the door shut, but I raised my hand again. "I don't want excuses," I said. "I don't want apologies. I want you gone." Her mouth opened and closed like she was searching for the right tactic. Tears, anger, bargaining. She tried all three in the span of 5 minutes. I didn't budge. When she realized I wasn't bluffing, her voice turned cold. "You can't just throw me out like this." I smiled faintly. "Oh, I'm not just throwing you out. I'm making sure you have somewhere else to stay." She blinked, suspicious. "Where?" I took out my phone, pulled up the recording from the attic, and hit play. Her lover's voice filled the room, spilling every detail of their little arrangement. "I've already sent this," I said, "to your parents, your sister, and a few of our mutual friends. And if you ever try to come back here, I'll post it where your boss can see it." The blood drained from her face. She didn't argue after that. By that evening, she was gone. 2 suitcases, a box of makeup, and whatever pride she had left. The silence in the house was different now. Clean, almost. I went up to the attic, opened the windows, and let the air clear out weeks of stale lies. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I just sat on the couch, phone in hand, rewatching the moment he walked out in front of the neighbors, the whole street witnessing the truth. That was enough for me. Not yelling, not hitting, just letting the light hit their shadows until there was nowhere left to hide. And that, I thought, was the most brutal revenge I could have given them.